2001 is considered to be one of the greatest years for wrestling, as it featured the last of the Attitude Era and saw the WWE begin its monopoly on wrestling. Several of the great stars of the company peaked during this era, and we also got to see the greatest WrestleMania of all time, WrestleMania 17 that same year. Naturally, there were many great feuds that took place in 2001. The following are 10 of the most special ones. At number 10, we have Edge versus Christian. When they were a team, Edge and Christian were the poster boys of WWE's tag team division. 2001 saw them go their separate ways though, after Christian betrayed the WWE to join the Alliance, and it also saw the beginning of their legendary singles careers. Tensions rose between them following Edge's King of the Ring win, followed by Christian's betrayal to join the Alliance. They feuded over the Intercontinental Championship, exchanging wins until Edge won back the championship at No Mercy. Following this, they went their own separate ways, but wouldn't see much of each other until the 2010s, when they were both grizzled veterans with multiple world titles to their names. While this was a pretty mild rivalry compared to the rest on this list, it's still executed nicely as compared to most tag team breakups. At number 9, we have Rock vs Booker T. Thanks to the invasion, we also got to witness The Rock go up against WCW star Booker T for the WCW World title. They also had beef over other things such as the similarity of their finishing moves, the rock bottom and the bookend. Knowing the two charismatic legends, you'd expect better from this rivalry. However, even though it was funny, it was mostly one-sided as The Rock constantly had the upper hand. Booker's treatment was in accordance with the rest of the invasion angle, in which WWE superstars were made to look better than the Alliance. After Rock's verbal onslaught on Booker, he defeated him at SummerSlam and later eliminated him in the match at Survivor Series. At number 8, we have the Dudley Boys versus the Hardys versus Edge and Christian. The tag team division was on fire during the Attitude Era, particularly due to these three teams. They put on many great shows as they were the masters of tables, ladders and chairs, respectively. The feud between the Hardys and Edge and Christian began back in 1999, and the Dudley Boys also joined in on the fun. The trio clashed at WrestleMania 2000 in an underrated matchup and participated in the first ever TLC match. In 2001, they also had a classic at the Show of Shows, with the highlight being Edge spearing Jeff Hardy mid-air. For the rest of the year, the Hardys would represent the WWE and feud with the Alliance's Dudleys, while Edge and Christian would break up and start their feud. At number 7, we have Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle. There are a few wrestlers who are as good in the ring as Kurt Angle was, and Chris Benoit was one of the select few. The two feuded several times and would tear the house down anytime they had a scrap. They faced each other 2 years in a row at WrestleMania, with their first bout also including Chris Jericho. Their second bout took place at WrestleMania 17, in which Angle defeated Benoit in an absolute stunner of a bout. They also faced each other at the next pay-per-view, Backlash, in a submission match. This was also a treat for every wrestling fan, as the stipulation was centered around technical wrestling and the two wrestlers' skills. Benoit would pull one back and win it, but he'd lose their next bout at Judgment Day in a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. This rivalry was entertaining because of the sheer in-ring talent involved, and we'd see it again in 2002 and 2003, as both men were a part of the SmackDown roster. It's a shame that two of Kurt Angle's best rivalries are now with men who have been erased from WWE's history. At number 6, we have Rock vs Jericho. It was refreshing to see Chris Jericho get his big break during the invasion, as he was considered one of the biggest players of the angle. He had a great feud with fellow Team WWF member, The Rock, for the WCW Championship. Jericho had been envious of The Rock and would face him for the belt at No Mercy. Prior to this, they had heated verbal exchanges, even though they were both beloved faces. For the first time ever, Y2J would become a world champion as he defeated the Great One in front of a very supportive crowd at No Mercy. The two also won the tag titles on the next night, which made Jericho a double champion. The tensions rose up again once they lost the titles. After losing the world title to The Rock on Raw, Jericho attacked him with a steel chair, teasing a heel turn, and he'd do just that at Survivor Series, attacking The Rock and almost costing Team WWF the match. At Vengeance, he defeated The Rock to win his second WCW championship. That same night, he did the unthinkable, and he defeated Steve Austin to unify the WWE and WCW titles. This rivalry saw Jericho get his first ever world title run, and was an excellent showing by two all-rounders, and it'll always be memorable for their verbal onslaught on Stephanie McMahon. Before we get into the next one, if you want to become a dog yourself, check the links in the description to join our private community, get a bunch of benefits, and get discounts on merch. At number 5, we have Triple H vs Austin. This may be the most intense feud on the list, as it's the only one that contains attempted murder. It all began when it was revealed that Triple H was responsible for Austin being run over with a car at Survivor Series 1999. Trips tried to end Austin's career with a heinous move, and once this was revealed, all hell broke loose. The two fought at Survivor Series 2001, where Hunter once again tried to run over Austin, but instead had his car picked up by a forklift and dropped upside down from 10 feet in the air. Their next match was at No Way Out, a brutal 3 stages of hell match, in which Triple H won by defeating Austin 2-1. After this, Austin would turn heel, and they'd bury the hatchet to become the two-man power trip, and we'll get to that later. At number 4, we have Vince vs Shane. The McMahon family has never been short of drama, but it has never been as entertaining as it was back in 2001. It all started when Vince McMahon began an affair with Trish Stratus, disrespecting and wanting to divorce Linda, Shane's mother. At the same time, WWE had purchased WCW in real life, and Shane was shown to have purchased the company under his father's nose in kayfabe. The two had an iconic street fight at WrestleMania, with Shane defeating Vince, and after this, we saw the father-son duo continue their rivalry in the form of the invasion angle. Shane turned heel, and we would see his sister Stephanie, the new owner of ECW, join up with him alongside Paul Heyman. The feud continued until Survivor Series, where Team WWF won and put the alliance out of business. However, Shane would get the last laugh, as he and Steph would sell their shares to Ric Flair, making him an unwanted partner of Vince. Overall, there were many twists and turns in this rivalry, and emotions ran high, which is why it was so good. At number 3, we have the Brothers of Destruction versus two-man power trip. As a team, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Triple H established their dominance over the roster with their vicious attacks, with one of them being on the Hardy Boys and Lita. But before they could assault Lita with a steel chair, they were interrupted by the Brothers of Destruction, Undertaker and Kane. The crowd popped big for the supernatural duo, and Austin and Hunter would cowardly exit the ring in true heel fashion. Undertaker and Triple H had already been feuding prior to WrestleMania 17, with Taker winning their bout to extend his streak. Hunter would join up forces with a newly heel Steve Austin, and the two would get a hold of the WWE and IC championships. After Undertaker and Kane won the tag team championships, the Power Trip aimed to become the double champs by taking the belts off them. They faced each other at Backlash, with all 3 titles on the line. The Power Trip won, and would endure Kane's elbow the next night on Raw. Then we saw The Undertaker take on both members of the Power Trip alone, even beating them in a handicap match at Insurrection. Kane would also return later on to level the playing field. At Judgment Day, Kane won the IC title from Triple H, while Austin retained against The Undertaker. And this was the last we saw of this rivalry, as Hunter would tear his quad and be out for the remainder of the year, while the other 3 became a big part of the invasion angle. Speaking of angles, at number 2, we have Angle vs Austin. Kurt Angle had one of the best face turns ever when he represented the WWE against the Alliance, which now had WWE champion Stone Cold Steve Austin. These two had quite the rivalry, with Kurt chasing Austin's title and even having his medals thrown into a river by him. In retaliation, he threatened to throw Austin into the river and even forced him to cry on air, unless he got a title match at SummerSlam. Austin agreed and was eventually thrown into a kiddie pool. Angle would also attack Austin and the Alliance by spraying milk onto them via a truck on Raw. Then at SummerSlam, Angle would survive multiple stunners from Austin, a spectacular feat to say the least, but he would only win the match by disqualification, much to everyone's dismay. He'd win the belt at Unforgiven, becoming one of the select few to beat Austin clean. Because it was an American hero winning the belt just days before the 9/11 attacks, it felt a lot more special. However, he'd lose it back to Austin after a short while and would turn heel soon after, to join the Alliance alongside him. But Angle would reveal it all to be a swerve, as he betrayed the Alliance, costing Austin the final matchup of the Invasion angle. The last time they would clash in 2001 was at Vengeance, where Austin would retain his belt in the tournament for the Undisputed Championship. And finally, at number 1, it's the obvious one, Rock vs Austin. Stone Cold and The Rock can be considered the Messi and Ronaldo of wrestling, with both being larger-than-life superstars of the industry, even today. Their second meeting at WrestleMania had everyone talking before, during, and after the matchup. It headlined the greatest wrestling event ever, and also had the best promo package of all time, set to the tone of Limp Bizkit's My Way. The build-up was supposed to be simple. The Rock was the WWE Champion, and Austin was the winner of the Royal Rumble, so they had to face each other. Of course, a little spice was added to the mix, as Deborah, Austin's wife at the time, was made The Rock's manager. Austin had warned The Rock that no harm should come to his wife, and when the inevitable happened, he attacked him with a stunner. Rock also responded with a rock bottom the following week to intensify the situation. The two had a great brawl, following which Deborah was removed from her managing role, and at the event, their legendary bout ended with a desperate Austin utilising the help from Vince McMahon to defeat The Rock, turning heel in his hometown. Austin and Triple H would attack The Rock the next night, graciously putting him out of action as he filmed a Scorpion King. Rock would return a couple of months later to lead Team WWF, and Rock and Austin would be the last men standing at Survivor Series, with the former getting the win for Team WWF. While the Rock and Austin rivalry would officially end in 2003, this was a time when they were both at their absolute best, which made it all that exciting. Let us know what your favourite rivalry was in the comments. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and click here for another. And remember to check out the links in the description to become a dog yourself.